This is O-Talk, a podcast covering the Ontario Hockey League. From people within the game. Oh, yeah.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the O-Talk podcast. You know, we said we'd be doing this more consistently, and we kind of stuck with that promise for about 2 weeks. And then I don't really know what happened. So, you know what? From now on, I think we're just not going to promise anything except bringing you meaningful content from junior hockey. That's all we're going to promise, and we will consistently live up to that hype. But one other promise that we did live up to is that we did bring you another interview. And this time, oddly enough, it is not a player. It is someone who kind of sees the game the way we do, and we wanted to share her perspective on the show. So I guess, me and Jordan are so proud to welcome Joely Stockl on the podcast. She currently leads up the Hockey News site for the OHL. So who better to ask junior hockey questions than her? You'll notice that Frankie is not with us. Unfortunately, the man has been battling some illness. There's clearly something going around. So hopefully he gets better and will rejoin us on the next episode. But Joely, thank you for joining us. This has been in the works for a while. We wanted to get someone with a bit of a different perspective on the show. Thanks for doing this. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. Thank you for having me on. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, she brings a wealth of experience in junior hockey, which is why we, as in me and Jordan, wanted to have this conversation and, wanted to update the fans on maybe some things that they might not know about the junior hockey landscape and maybe give them a more analytical perspective on things, which is something we don't normally do on the show. First things first, though, Jordan, my man, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, Josh. Obviously, yes, the times have been busy. I know we've had to stall a couple of shows here, but I'm glad to be back, and we'll see how it goes. But just happy to be here right now and have our first ever non-player interview. So
I know that's exciting. Jordan, unfortunately, has been spending way too much time making his Mississauga Steelheads fan poster. So, the team's been doing good. That's actually a great segue into what we wanted to talk about. It's, again, something a little different. And on the show, we kind of want to make it fun for you guys. We kind of want to bring some new aspects into this. We don't want to follow the same format every single time. So Jordan has thought of a very interesting way to break up today's topics, I guess. So Jordan, I'm going to let you explain this one, and then we're going to hop right into it.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. So basically what we're going to do now is tap into the Central Division, the most important division in the OHL, according to this podcast, because basically all we talk about for the most part. A little bit of the East too, but nonetheless, I thought we talked about...
We need to get better at that.
We're 12,
honestly, dude.
We're 12, 13... well, we're talking about the other ones in the future, but we're 12, 13 games in now for most of these teams. There's 5 in the Central that we can really evaluate, because I think there's a lot of intriguing storylines. And I think we kind of can begin with the Mississauga Steelheads. We'll kind of get a roundtable thought. I'll bring up some of the things I've liked about the Steelheads, and obviously that's the play of draft eligible in 2024 Luke Misa. And I know Josh going to think of glazing him, but I mean, I think he's really coming with a purpose. After that, some of the deals last year to trade deadline found himself in a first line position, and Porter Martone, obviously one of the returnees and one of those deadline deals last year, has really been able to find some chemistry with him. So Luke Misa and Porter Martone lead the way, but there's a lot of other aspects. And I'll kind of pass it to you, Joely. What have you seen with the Steelheads so far this season that's really led to this dominant start?
Yeah, I'll look at a couple different positions than you did there. Definitely in the crease, they're pretty strong off. Ryerson Leaders has had a phenomenal start to the season, and they have Jack Ivankovic backing them up there. And both of those guys certainly have really high potential. I see Leaders as a pretty high pick, probably the most, the highly touted goaltender from the OHL going into the draft. And then Ivankovic, of course, is 2007 born, so he's got a couple more years. But then other than that, I'll bring in Jakob Fibiger. He's been one of my favorite players from the OHL, looking at the draft eligible guys. Just a complete all-around defender, doesn't really have any flaws. He's pretty mobile and he does everything well. He sees the ice really well. So yeah, those are kind of some key guys that I think have contributed to the Steelhead success so far.
Yeah, Joel, I'm glad you mentioned Ivan Kovic because there were some people in the scouting community that were a bit surprised when the Steelheads drafted him at 7th overall last year in the priority selection, just considering they already had Leanders who came in as a 16-year-old and really came up to play. But you're seeing it now. I mean, Ivan Kovic, a 911 save percentage in 4 games behind Leanders, 920. That's already arguably one of the best tandems in the league. And they're already such a young age. So such potential with these two netminders. And what about you, Josh? What have you seen about Mississauga, despite being the Barrie guy?
Well, it pains me to say this because it just, yeah, you're right. It really sucks being a divisional rival and watching the Steelheads do well. Personally, I think the league is a better place whenever the Steelheads are a good team. I think regardless of any outcome of the season, as long as they're competitive, I think the season is still entertaining. So having, like you both said, phenomenal points about the roster that they constructed heading into the season. We all know the rebuild that they kind of went through last year. I think that rebuild is probably paying dividends a lot sooner than people expected this season, just with the steps that people are taking forward. So I really got to hand it to the guys, the young guys especially, that came into that team. And yeah, like that's pretty much it. I will say that they did lose to Barrie 6-1 not too long ago. So perhaps there's a conversation to be had there, but you guys both make fantastic points on that because they've just been really fun to watch. It's just a shame that I feel like the city of Mississauga is missing out on that, even though they're still one of the best teams in the league at this point. I feel like there is still a large majority of the fan base that doesn't really seem in tune with the team. That's been a running problem, I think, for the franchise, which we've discussed at length on this show. But I just really wish that a lot of people in the Mississauga community supported that team the way other junior teams have their fan bases.
No, it's certainly a good point. And, we're talking about Barrie. I say we move on to the Colts. 6-6 start at the moment, kind of struggling in their past 10 games, but a bit of some positive starts here. I'll get to that started off with Cole Beaudoin, obviously friend of the show, another draft eligible player, 6 goals through his first 12 games. A pretty decent start there. But Josh, what have you seen from the Colts just being able to shoot some games again? Some of the other players, whether it's from the import draft, maybe some of the netminders play. What have you liked from the Colts so far?
Well, to be honest with you, Jordan, I'm really excited to hear what Joely has to say about this because I love when people pump the tires of the Barrie boys. But yeah, I think heading into the season, looking back at kind of what we talked about in our season preview, I kind of said that this team would probably have some challenges finding consistency. This is a very new team, very rebuilt the same way the Steelheads were. Lost a lot of key players and a lot of new guys and younger guys stepping into bigger roles. But like you said, friend of the show, Cole Beaudoin is off to a great start. I mean, he's obviously focused on the upcoming draft, but I think in the creases, similar to Mississauga, is where our answers are kind of lying here. Is Sam Hillebrand, who was our third string last year, has really developed into that starting goalie caliber now that Anson Thornton has moved on to the Coyotes organization. Not entirely sure if he's going to come back at some point this year. Still on the table, I've heard. But as of right now, Sam Hillebrand has done a fantastic job filling in between the pipes, and he's really embraced, I should say, that starter's role. Speaking about the import draft, Edward Chalet, the first round pick for the Kraken in the last year's draft, I think he went 20th overall. He's gotten off to a bit of a slow start in his year, but I really don't doubt that that's going to slow him down at some point. Once he gets going, once Jacob Frasca gets going, I feel like this team could still be very competitive in what has shaped out to be a very competitive division. I don't think many of us saw that happening at the beginning of the year, but like I said at the beginning of the year, the struggles with consistency were anticipated, and I think the team is kind of just finding their legs and their structure, I should say, in the early going. But I am very curious to hear what Joely has to say. I don't know how many Colts games you've seen, but what are your thoughts on the very young looking Barrie Colts?
Yeah, I haven't seen them this year yet, unfortunately, but I saw them quite a few times last year. And well, I'll just start by saying, like you guys did, I'm a huge fan of Cole Beaudoin. I think he's definitely taken a step this year. Watching him at first at the Hlinka Cup, he's definitely looking a lot faster this season, and just a bigger, stronger guy. And yeah, he fits a really unique role. And then other than that, one of junior hockey's best kept secrets, Bo Jelsma, has been on my draft list for quite some time, and I still can't believe that no teams picked him up yet. But definitely shouldn't be too long for him. I'm a huge fan of his game, and he's already off to a great start as well. And then, as you mentioned too, Sam Hillebrand had a really great weekend, especially. I covered that. He had a great performance against in 2 games this weekend. But yeah, other than that, some other young guys are stepping up. I like JD Noonan. He just played his first game this past weekend. I was a huge fan of him last year in U16. So yeah, no, definitely a bright future for this team. But I think there's definitely been some inconsistencies to start the season. But I'm excited to see the import guys get going with Chalet and Meyer too.
As someone who covers the league regularly, I guess, like what is kind of when a team is going through that stretch and trying to find their legs and their structure in the early going, what would you say is probably the biggest challenge for a team like that when a bunch of new guys are stepping into new roles, when a bunch of young guys are stepping into new roles? What is the biggest challenge in front of a team like that?
Yeah, I think it's tough because you have different teams, especially in this division with North Bay. You have really structured teams like that, and coming into a team with, maybe an overload of skill and not enough structure with all the new guys. I feel like that's a big challenge. Like, especially when you look at North Bay, they've been such a structured team for several years. They're super tough to play against, right? So yeah, I think just the unstructuredness of it all and kind of finding a system that kind of fits your team's needs and certain roles on the team.
Wow, Joely, you really helped lead that segue there into North Bay, who is our next team of choice here to talk about a bit in terms of their start to the season. Obviously, getting incredible production from that top line from Manny, Wakely, Steenstill. Manny has 10 goals through 13 games. Him and Wakely, 19 points. Van Steenstill with 16. Another one, though, of interest here, because they haven't necessarily been the exact same team as last year. Ty Nelson, kind of off to a slower start for our standards, a bit shaky defensively. What have you seen from North Bay thus far? And how are they a bit different from last year?
Yeah, I think just those younger guys are 1 year older. Daleen Wakely is a guy I've been a fan of for the past couple years, and he had a breakout season last season, but I really think this is his season to have even more of a breakout. And Romani's had a fantastic start as well, like you mentioned. But yeah, I really feel like it's time for North Bay's offense to get going with some of those guys, because I feel like that's kind of been, as structured of a team as they are, I feel like the offense hasn't quite been there. But then obviously Dom DiVincentis in net as well. Phenomenal goaltending prospect, and could probably be in the running for goaltender of the year again. So no, I definitely think North Bay is one of the top dogs this year. And especially when it comes playoff time, they're really, really tough to play against.
Any additional thoughts there, Josh?
Well, the first thing I'm going to say is that Anthony Romani was one of my candidates for breakout candidate of the year. And so far, that prediction is hitting fully. So I'm really happy to see that. The other thing I wanted to touch on, and this has been a familiar theme, especially in this episode, North Bay's goaltending situation has always been superb, at least dating back in recent memory. I will say that this was literally just recent news, but Dom DiVincentis is actually out week to week with a lower body injury. So taking that into consideration, they have a ton of depth at the position. I have full confidence that Charlie Robertson can also take on a starting role. It's just crazy to me that they have so many good goaltending prospects in that organization. It's kind of annoying just to watch that. But again, huge fan of Dom, huge fan of the team, even though they do get the better of Barrie a lot of the time. It is still nice to see that team staying competitive. And that's really just a testament to the organization that they've built up there. A passionate fan base. And when you have guys like Matvei Petrov moving on, and then a guy like Anthony Romani slotting in the top 6 right behind him and seemingly carrying that production year to year, like I don't really have any words to describe that. That is just an incredible thing of consistency to be able to implement that on a team year to year.
One thing I'll just add specifically about Dom and maybe the injury kind of plays into this. Maybe the defensive structure lacking slightly to begin the season. He hasn't exactly been the most amazing goalie through 10 games this year, rocking an .892 save percentage, a bit below average for his standards, but perhaps there were some injury concerns. And like I said, the defensive structure, I do expect him to rebound there, and it gives an opportunity there for the other players on that team. Let's head to Sudbury now, who's picking up the pace a bit as the season progresses. They do have some weapons offensively. I mean, Quentin Musty was with the San Jose Sharks right till the end of their training camp. He's come back on fire with 10 points in 7 games. Goyette starting off strong, just like he did last year, 17 and 12. And Lennon McCallum at that point per game mark in 10 points throughout 10 games. Joely, what have you seen with the Sudbury Wolves so far this season?
Yeah, I think the Wolves are a really exciting team this year, especially with Dalibor Dvorsky coming in. Really happy when I found out that news. I've been a huge fan of him from the international level and watching a couple games of him last year in Europe. And no, he's just a fantastic player. And it seems like he's flourishing already in the North American game. He doesn't really look out of place. So, yeah, it's been really great to see, especially combined with the talent of David Goyette. And yeah, he's had another fantastic start to the season. Yeah, other than that, Alex Ferron, another big guy I'm a fan of. And I think it's time kind of for him to break out a little bit offensively, even though the upside isn't there too high for him. But he was a high enough draft pick by Chicago, so I'm excited to see how he kind of has a breakout season. And other than that, the Wolves just traded Jakub Kromiak today. So
yes, that's a big story.
So yeah, they're lacking a little bit now defensively, and I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of go and pick somebody up before, in the near future. And then in net, they have Jakob von Dras, who's had a good start as well, from what I've seen. So,
what about you, Josh? What have you seen of Sudbury so far in this season?
Well, I'm going to go in a bit of a different direction. Just looking at the games that they've played, it seems like Sudbury is one of those teams that has been vastly underperforming in the early going of this season. I remember the shock on my face when I saw that I think they were included in the CHL top 10 rankings in entering the year, which was crazy to think about. It wasn't that crazy when I thought about it more because of the roster that they have, and then getting Dvorsky coming over from Europe. One would think that would only further their cause in that regard. But for me, I don't think the results have really been there. 7-5 record. I know it's still early, but I feel like if you ask anyone on that team, they'd probably say that they'd think that they were in a different spot based on how their roster is built heading into the season. Understanding that, like, you could easily peg them as a OHL Cup or OHL championship favorite, nearly with the roster that they have right now. So, given where they are right now in the season, I'm not entirely, like, I don't think they're entirely thrilled with their performance, and I think that is just another team that's kind of struggling to find their legs and consistency. But I feel like once they get all their top guys firing on all cylinders, I feel like it's going to be a different story. But just in the early going, I'd say it's been slightly underwhelming given where they were ranked ahead of the season.
Yeah, exactly. Just to add on to that, yeah, I actually wrote a piece on that, how they were ranked 8th in the CHL rankings to start the season, and definitely something surprising to see. But I feel like they've kind of had the potential to be good for the last couple seasons. They definitely were underwhelming last season, didn't do too well. But no, I think this is finally kind of the time, even though they've had a mediocre start to the season. I think as they get going, their offense is super electric, and I really think they could do some damage if they start to live up to expectations, which
this really feels like the year for them. Like with Dvorsky here now, it just feels like all the pieces are back together. I doubt Musty and even Goyette maybe stay another season. Like, this really feels like the year they should go all in. And right now, I don't think the results are too much in their favor, which is making me a little intriguing as we continue this long OHL season. Like, the moves that they're going to make and how they're going to turn this season around and find more consistency, find more wins. Because right now, it's really just like a win-loss alternating pattern as we go here. So it is quite interesting. That's a good point.
Yeah, certainly. And now for the final team in the Central Division, it's the Niagara Ice Dogs. I know, Joely, you've seen them probably a bit this season, just being close by. What have you thought of their team? Obviously, similar to last year, they've already made some trades to begin the season. They acquired Ryan Humphrey and Matthew Paris from London in exchange for Juan Copeland. Got a couple of picks in terms of a second and third as well. Paris has actually been pretty good for them, 12 points through 12 games. Humphrey with 3 and 11, while Copeland's kind of struggled a bit, had some injury problems as well that go along with that. And then they've got Federico, 11, on separate trade with London as well. And Levin has 8 points in 12 games. What have you just thought of the trade acquisitions and the team overall to begin the season?
Yeah, I really like the trade acquisitions, and honestly, not that their record reflects it, but I think they look a lot better than they did last season. There's certainly a lot more hope there so far, even though the record doesn't show it yet. But no, I think Gavin Bryant was just a great acquisition. He's been super dominant for them offensively. Same with Ryan Humphrey, another guy that's really tough to play against, super great around the net. And then one of my favorite draft eligibles too, Kevin He. He's had a decent start to the season. But yeah, just kind of getting more support around those young guys is what Niagara really needs, especially with Dylan Ruberek as well, who's also had a good start. I just feel like they need some insulation with maybe some more experienced guys like Gavin Bryant and Ryan Humphrey to really allow those rookies to learn and develop. But yeah, other than that, on the ice, the Ice Dogs haven't looked too bad this season. Owen Flores is back between the pipes, and I think he's a really promising young goaltender too.
What have you seen, Josh? I don't know if you've actually watched. Have you been to a game in Niagara yet this year?
Not Niagara, but they did come to Barrie, and I've seen like just the highlights on social media and everything. And I never really thought I'd say this soon, at least, but I feel like similar to Sudbury, the leaves are slowly turning in Niagara. I feel like the air is just different. I think with everything that happened last year and even leading into this season, God forbid, oh my goodness, it does feel different. I'm not going to say it feels fully different, and I'm even skeptical even saying this now, but it does feel that the change that they implemented, it does feel that they're evolving, at least. I think Joely did say, like, she hit it right on the head. Like, I think on the ice, they look a lot better. And I give a lot of credit to Ryan Humphrey for that, because as a veteran player, OHL champion coming into a situation in Niagara that was, let's just say, less than ideal, he's done a really good job being a vocal leader, leading by example on the ice, again, being tough to play against. And that just allows players like Kevin He, like Alex Asadorian, to be better in their own game. And what they do best is they score goals, and that's what they've been doing this season. So while the record may not be the best, while there still might be some, if not many, dark years ahead of this organization just because of the mistakes that they've made in the past, the really unforgivable mistakes that this organization has made in the past, I just think, for the players that are there now, I really just think they're trying to make the best of the situation. And frankly, that shows on the ice. They're still a very competitive group. And I've been cautiously optimistic with the direction the Ice Dogs are going in, just because it does feel a little bit different this year.
I agree too, Josh. I mean, they've actually drafted pretty well too. Ethan Chattis, they've been in their lineup, was with the Rebels last year at the U16 level. But it was a slow start for him, but
who has been skating quite consistently in the lineup, which, again, if you're going to inject your youth and your draft picks, you might as well do it now. That's all, because the team isn't great still. So you might as well see what you got.
But these are guys in a couple of years, will really be helping to lead that team. And, that's what you're trying to build right now, just having some sort of stability, which has been a bit of a difficult thing for Niagara. So I think that's the main thing this year, is just to try to foster an environment that's a bit more stable. You kind of know who you're playing with. Maybe don't make 20 trades if possible, but at the same time, do try to accumulate good draft picks, because I actually do think they've been drafting pretty well the past couple of years. And any final thoughts, guys, on the Niagara Ice Dogs before we head to the O game?
Well, actually, before the O game, and I really meant to do this at the beginning, but I feel like we should ask Joely some questions about her work and how exactly she got into junior hockey. So Jordan, Frankie, and I have ranted maybe almost too much about like our passion and how this started and why we do this and why it's fun to do this. But for someone like yourself who maybe doesn't necessarily have a direct path into junior hockey, why is the OHL and junior hockey in general such an attractive market for you to cover?
Yeah, I think obviously I grew up playing hockey, and kind of towards the end, I was around 14, 15. My family started, I mean, we always went to Bulldogs games and everything, and I was always kind of interested in the prospect side of things, and trying to make my own rankings from a young age, and yeah, just being able to watch those guys in person. And we actually started billeting for the Hamilton Bulldogs, which allowed me to really get into, the junior side of hockey and kind of the ins and outs of it. And being so close to like the Bulldogs, watching them every night and kind of getting a handle on the league really kind of sparked my interest. And kind of from there, I started going to games in Mississauga and Niagara, Kitchener. So yeah, really just sparked the love of tracking prospects and just kind of creating my own opinions on them. So yeah, that's kind of how I got into the OHL.
All right. Well, I was going to ask another question about that, but now I feel like we have to ask about the billeting thing. Who did you billet, and what was that experience like? I feel like, Jordan, this is good because we actually should get a billet on here. That'd be funny. But yeah, that is crazy.
Yeah. So we billeted, it was 2019, I believe. The Bulldogs got Cameron Saprika from Peterborough. And we had him for just a little over a year, kind of leading into COVID. We still talk to this day. He's still one of my good friends. And it was really cool getting to live with him. He's a really awesome guy. And now he actually just got called up to the Belleville Senators from the ECHL. So he's kind of getting his jump. He just signed a PTO there. So all the best to him. And yeah, we've been in touch. So it was really cool getting to know him. He's a really, really awesome person, and definitely the ideal of hard work and determination. He never gave up, and it was a tough path for him to kind of get to where he is today. He had a couple years in the ECHL, which isn't the easiest league to play in for a long time. So no, that was really cool, kind of from a young age, getting to see a guy like that. And now he's kind of finding his success himself. So
Jordan and I did prepare for this interview, but I don't think there is a Google search out there that would tell us exactly that information. But that is really cool. That's a really cool story. And an entirely different angle that I think a lot of people haven't even tapped into with this league. So before your work, I guess, in addition to your work with the Hockey News, you actually scout quite a bit, which is interesting because the parallels between being a writer and a scout are honestly more different than a lot of people think. So in addition to what you do at the Hockey News, why don't you share exactly what you do scouting wise and maybe what you kind of look for in a prospect when, you're at a game, because you're at a lot of them. If you ever see Joely's Twitter account, it's full of pictures of rinks in different places and cities across the province. So yeah, how about you just tell us, in addition to just the site managing, what a scout actually is?
Yeah, so right now I scout for the Coquitlam Express in the BCHL. So I cover Ontario for them in general, and try to recruit guys from Ontario, as tough as it is. And then I also scout for the Hamilton Kilty Bees, who are in the GOJHL Junior B team. So yeah, basically, I don't know, my game count is up around 60 so far this year. So
that is an absurd number, given the hockey season isn't even that old, and that's actually crazy.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so with all the levels I'm kind of watching and observing now, I'm scouting everything from U15, U16, U18 to the OHL and Junior A and Junior B. So it's quite a lot, but I certainly love it, and I take pride in having as much knowledge as I can on a player. I always like to make sure that I'm sure on a player before I write a report on him or a story on him, say for the Hockey News, or kind of try to recruit him. So yeah, kind of creating your own way of scouting has really been a learning process for me, but I mean, you're never going to perfect it, but I think I'm starting to kind of nail down the way I like to watch the game and the way I see players. So there's a lot of notebooks laying around with all my notes on them. So just constantly taking notes. And I think the biggest thing for scouting for me is making sure I differentiate every player. You know, you're not just describing a player, good skater, good shot kind of thing, right? You're looking into their shot, you know, where are their shots coming from? What does the release look like? Or what's the power, right? So yeah, it's just kind of diving deeper into their game and the different tools and strategies they use in their games. It also really helps talking to the players as well. That's a part of scouting. Just talking to the players, kind of getting a sense of their character and things like that. So yeah, there's certainly a lot that goes into it, but no, it's been a really, really fun learning process for me. And I kind of take that into my writing as well. I feel like I can dive into the game deeper than just the surface level. So yeah, I definitely try to take the scouting side and the analytical side of thinking the way of hockey into my writing too.
Well, based on that answer, I feel like we could do a whole other episode dedicated to this, which, Jordan, is actually not a bad idea and something that I think we should consider going forward. Because if we just title the episode "How to Become a Scout" featuring Joely Stockl, I mean, that would attract 1,000 viewers right then and there. But I feel like, thank you for that answer. That was phenomenal. I feel like we should move into the part that a lot of people kind of cringe at, because this is where the real knowledge comes into play. And Jordan, I'll swing it over to you as you explain the final segment of the episode.
Well, yes, Joely, if you're not familiar, at the end of each podcast, we do a thing called the O game. And basically, I'm going to ask you a set of 3 questions. And I've always tried to pick a theme. We always kind of go with the theme of the episode. So these are all Central Division related questions. I don't think they're too hard. It's not like Frankie here where I'm asking such obscured questions. I think these are pretty normal. And I think without further ado, we can get right into the O game. Is everyone ready?
Absolutely, man. I'm looking forward to these questions.
All right, so
Yep, I'm ready.
starting this off, if Josh is looking at us and not his phone at the moment.
Sorry, 1 second. Sorry. Go ahead.
All righty. So over the last 10 seasons, so this is from 2013-14 to 2022-23, I'm not counting the start of this year, which Central Division team has finished first the most amount of times? If you can take a guess, you have to dive into your knowledge. Which teams have really been able to maximize their competitive window and finish at that top seed in the last 10 years? So let's see what you guys
10
can
years?
pick up. Yeah. And the answer is
I think I gotta guess a little bit here. So
I think I have a good guess, but then
you can guess.
Yeah, you can guess. Like, it's not like, it's kind of like the first.
I can give you a hint. Actually, I'll give you a hint because
no. If we both get the answer wrong, then you can give us the hint. Don't give us the hint right now.
Okay, but I was going to say that it's actually a tie. The answers between 2 teams. So
okay,
if you can guess both the teams, that might even give you a bonus
that actually
point.
helps me a lot. Thanks, Jordan. So I'm going to guess first, and I think. Okay. Oh God, no, I don't even know. I think, actually, ironically enough, one of the teams is the Niagara Stocks.
The Niagara Stocks.
They were good in the teens. So.
Wrong. It's not.
Unfortunate. I hate that sound effect, Jordan. You always delay it. Like, what? Just play the damn thing. Okay. Well, I have a second guess too.
I guess this will limit the options, but let's give Joely
and we just
a chance.
talked about it. If this is wrong, I give up. I think the second team that is tied is North Bay, just based on how good they've been over the past. Okay, there we go.
There you go.
Got that one.
North Bay is one of the teams that has had 3 Central Division titles over the past 10 years. Can you guess the last one? Joely can try to go for the
I'll
tie.
turn it over to Joely for this one.
Yeah, so North Bay was one of my answers. My other one, your favorite team, Josh, Barrie?
Oh my gosh, correct.
Really? No,
yes, it's a tie between Barrie and North Bay, 3 apiece.
In the last, that is crazy. I did not think the Colts won that much. Well, actually, they were pretty good. Looking like back in like the Shifley days, they were really good. So yeah, actually, that makes sense.
Alrighty, and now we're gonna kind of move forward.
Joely, that was good.
Yes, that was pretty good. Good showing there. So now we're going to move to this year. I'll make it a bit easier now. So if you're paying attention, you probably have a decent idea of some of these questions coming up.
I'm out on
the second
this,
one
for sure.
Who are the top 3 Central Division rookies in terms of points leaders at the moment? So in terms of rookie players in the 5 Central Division teams, who are the rookie point leaders? This is it.
Dude, I have absolutely no clue.
That's tough.
I have no idea.
We did mention some of these guys when we were talking about these teams, so let's see.
I think I have one.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Who do you think, Joely?
Or wait, now I'm thinking again.
Again, you guys can just guess. Like, it's not.
I know. I'm trying to think. I can't even get a name into my head right now. I have a super random one, but just because I've seen him score a bunch of goals on the OHL Instagram.
Well, you can just say the name. Who is it?
It's not.
You go.
It's
You
not
go
like.
first.
It's not like.
Name.
It's not like Iggy Pazzi on North Bay, is it? There's no way.
You're right. Yes.
That's
You're
crazy.
so right. He's second. Yes.
He's second? How many points does he have?
In terms of Central Division point
Oh, so
leaders.
yeah, of course.
So remember, there is a
points?
bit of an asterisk of my stat there. I actually don't have his points total directly in front of me.
That's
Right there,
crazy. Good for him. Good for
That's
him.
wild.
Good for Iggy. I honestly, not only have I seen him score a bunch on like he's been like highlight of the night a couple times, but like the name is just so good. The name is so it's just a buttery name. Iggy Pazzi. What a name.
And now, if I need to give you guys a hint just to kind of steer you in the right direction, one of these teams is near the top of the Central Division, and one of these teams is near the bottom of the division. That helps steer your answer there. So think of guys who are maybe getting decent elevated roles, or think of guys who are maybe in a favorable situation.
There's gotta be somebody from the Ice Dogs. I'm trying to I want to say Ruber. I'm gonna go with Ruberek. I not.
Oh my gosh, Ryan!
No, you're
Rubrick
lying.
Is third for this. Yes,
The guy has like 2 goals, 1 goal.
He's got like 4 points or something.
Well, we're talking about strictly the Central Division, Josh. That's why.
God, that is low.
That's why there's a bit of an asterisk.
Maybe more than 4, but the last time I checked, the stat line was 2 and 2. That was
That's
a while
crazy.
ago
I saw his first, I saw his first goal in the O. So that's why I wasn't gonna guess him, because I was like, that's too low.
So you guys actually, I believe you guys are actually tied at 2 at the moment.
Yeah, we are.
Mistaken.
That's crazy.
Who can
So
take
the
the lead
last
here?
one.
I mean, I did give you a slight hint on where this other guy played. Kind of near the top
Did
of
you?
the division. I said he's near the top of the division.
Okay, well, it's
You kind of got to think of guys that have.
wait. So this guy's the leading rookie scorer? This can't be
in
right.
the Central
Oh.
Division. In the
In the
Central
Central?
Division.
Okay, I have an answer.
Yes.
Oh, I don't.
Because I think he's regarded a rookie.
Yes. I mean, yeah, I am being a bit technical with the whole
Oh
rookie.
my God.
Is it Jakob Fibiger?
Oh my gosh. And Joely has taken the lead.
Wow. I don't think she's gotten an answer wrong yet. This is crazy.
I was kind of thinking like if I guess he's considered a rookie, right? Because he's an 06 import, right? So
Jordan, I think I should be given an extra point for guessing Iggy Pazzi on the first try.
yeah, that was
Who the heck?
I would have got that one. So
Yeah, who would have got that? I'm kidding. I don't need an extra point, but hit me with the next one, man. Oh man, that
We
sucks.
got one more question left here. Here, basically, I'll make it so that whoever answers his next question will win the O game. How does that sound?
Sounds
We have one
good,
left.
man. I need it badly.
Now, this is a bit more of this is kind of niche too, but we'll see if you guys can guess this. It's not too niche, I think, but there's one Central Division player currently on a 4-game point streak that is tied for the second longest of the season so far. So it's a current point streak. And who is this player in the Central Division?
I have a guess.
Yes.
I also have a guess based on his current stat line, which
Now, Joely
indicates
was
that.
first, so she
Okay,
gets the
that's
answer.
fine. No, wait. If she gets it right, don't say anything, Jordan, because then I have to guess.
I won't.
I could be wrong. I could be completely off, but Porter Martel.
Who are you going to guess, Josh?
I was gonna guess Anthony Romani based on his current stat line at he's almost a point per game. So I feel like there has to be some.
Well, interesting guesses for both of you, and one of you is right, and that is Joely.
It's not me. Yeah, it's not me. freaking
she
knew
has
it.
taken.
I hate the way you did
the
that,
O
Jordan.
game.
That sucks. That was actually really impressive, though. Like, I don't know if, I mean, maybe we should have asked about a different division, but holy moly, I don't think anyone has swept the O game as well as you just did. So that was impressive. Jordan, those are actually some good questions. I got to hand it to you.
Yeah, for sure. I actually would argue that's one of our closer battles that we've seen in the O games history.
Yeah,
we've had players just smoke us sometimes. Usually it's me and Frankie, but
yeah, definitely.
But overall,
anyways,
guys,
that does it for this episode of the O-Talk podcast. Joely, thank you again for spending part of your busy Wednesday night talking with us about junior hockey. Some unreal insight. We will be following up probably about an episode dedicated to how to become a scout or what are some of the things people are looking for in scouts nowadays. But that O game just showed exactly why people like Joely need to come on the show more often, is because there are people that know probably more than us about junior hockey, and that just showed right there in the clean sweep. So on behalf of Jordan and I, thank you again for coming on, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. It was a great time.
No wonder why the Hockey News hired you. And see you next week for the O Game
So
Talk.
long, Ontario. Thanks for watching the O-Talk podcast.